Hi guys, welcome back to Practically Creative. This is Melissa. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Today we're working on a project for me, something that I want, and I'm trying to make something similar to this. You can see that this is my prototype and it didn't work out real well. It's supposed to hold two boxes and then it's supposed to be able to fasten down here at the front. I can use this, but it's not as well made as I would like. So I am creating a new one. I'm going to bring you down here to my cutting table and show you how I'm putting this together. And the reason I'm going to show you how I come up with the measurements is because not all pillboxes are the same size. And I want you to be able to recreate this at home. This is fat quarter friendly, so let's go to the cutting table and see what's up. Okay, so down here at the cutting table, what I've got is I have two fat quarters and I have put interfacing on mine. I pieced it together, but I'm not super worried about that. And I am marking out some measurements. First, I want to make sure that I've got my box kind of centered on my fabric. So I've got it 4 inches from that edge, and I have it 4 inches from that edge. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a rectangle around it, and I'm writing on the interfacing, not on the fabric side. I'm not worried about getting right up on it. I just want to make sure that I have room there. 1.25 inches tall. So two boxes are going to be 2.5 inches tall. So I probably want to keep that entire 4 inches all the way out to the edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay my ruler down here straight along that line, and I'm going to draw a straight line out to the edge. There's a method to what I'm doing. I want to make sure I have plenty of fabric left there to make our sides for this box. The same here and over here. I'm not stressing, okay? I'm just making sure this works. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark. We'll move the box out the way. I don't need it right now. So I'm going to mark out from this edge here 4 inches. And I would add seam allowance on this, but I've already added a 1/2 inch to the measurement. So we'll go straight out from there. And we're going to do the same on the other side. I'm working in a small space, so don't let that throw you. I want to turn that around so I can see the 4. Here's 4, here's 4. That comes out from that edge. Here's 4. Here's 4. And then I'm going to meet my little marks that I put out here at the side. Now what I've got is the outline of my box. I have my fabric doubled. I have both my lining and my outer fabric here. And let's see, up here at this end, I want to make sure that I carefully cut through all the layers. This is going to become the top of my box, so I'm not going to throw it away or put it in my scrap bin. I'm just going to go ahead and set it to the side. And then here, where I drew these squares, I'm going to cut them out. And I'm going to give myself a hair on the outside of the drawn line, just so that I don't end up with anything that's cut into the sewing lines. And of course, that fabric's not really scrap. I can use that for something else. That one isn't useful to me, at least not right this moment. Okay, so we have two pieces that are cut exactly the same. And I'm going to take them to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew up from the corner to the top edge on each of these corners. Just a simple little, probably 2 to 2.5 length stitch. I'll be back when I get those sewn. Okay, so now that we have our corners sewn, we are going to set them aside and we're going to actually make the top of our box. And I'm going to do it very similarly to the way we did the other piece. I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to draw around my interfaced piece. Except I'm going to add probably about 1/2 inch all the way around. I want to leave plenty of room for seam allowance. And at the back of this, I want there to be a tab. So what I'm going to do is, let's do this with the rotary cutter. It's easier on my shoulder than the scissors. Extra. Yay. And then we'll come up here and do a straight cut from there. And then we'll come from the back of the piece straight along this line and cut here. Missed the thread. Let's get that. So those are all extras. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the sewing machine and I'm going to start sewing here on this side and I'm going to go down and around with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I want this top to be just slightly bigger than the actual box that goes below it, and I want to be able to tuck this in. So I will probably come, here's the edge of the box, so I'll probably go from here down and then go around that edge. I will be right back. Okay, now that that part is done, I am going to go ahead and trim off corners and excess fabric. using my rotary cutter to do it because that's easier on my hand. Let's turn this right side out. I did backstitch here and here, so this should turn out easily without any problems. And then I'm just going to stick my finger up in there and push that corner out because this is the lid to our box. All the way up in the corner. Looks pretty good. Press my seam flat. My pin's not out, so I'll use it to get the rest of that corner to go out for me. You can use anything to do this. You can use a purple thing, which I've got over here. You can use a chopstick, scissors, as long as you don't poke through your seams, whatever you need. And of course, this piece of fabric is interfaced. It already was before I started cutting it. And let's go ahead and give this a little iron. And now that I've ironed that flat, I'm going to do one more thing before we go back to our box body. I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick little top stitch around this top edge. It's not a requirement, but I like the way things lay better if I do that. And if I were making this for a gift, I might do some embroidery on that section of fabric before I make the lid. Okay, so I did a quick little top stitch around there, just about 1/8 of an inch, all the way around the top. And now I want to bring my two boxes back into play. This is the liner here. So I'm going to set it aside for a minute. I'm going to turn my outside box right side out. And I'm going to decide what is the front and what is the back here. They look about the same to me, but maybe I'll use this side. Then I'm going to take my lid and I'm going to put it so that the right side of the lid touches the right side of so the fabrics match. So the green touches the green. And I'm going to center that in between the two seams. It's not quite the same width as the top. I don't want the edges of my lid to go over into that side seam. So now I'm just going to pin this in place. And I'll do a quick basting stitch here so that that stays. Basting stitch is just literally to hold it in place. So I'm going to do it inside the seam line that I'm going to use. And I'm going to use a 1/2 inch seam line. So I will use a 1/2 inch I will use a 1/4 inch basting seam right there. Okay, and now that I have basted this on here, you can see it's sewn together. I'm going to turn this back inside out. Okay, so now I've got my outside inside out, and I'm going to put my inside, and I'm doing this backwards from what you would normally do with bags, mostly because I want a little more control over where that top for my container is. And I'm going to put the lining inside so that the right side of the lining faces the right side of the fabric. And then we're going to bring our pins down here. And I want you to see this really up close. What I'm doing is I'm taking the two seams, the outer seam and the inner seam, and I'm nesting them just like you would do if you were quilting. And I'm going to put a pin right there. Again, a great place for a clip, but I like the pins because they don't allow the fabric to slide at all. And when I pin right here on this corner, I want to make sure that my lid is not in the seam at the corner. So I'm going to pin there, and all of my pins are ratty looking. I got to get some more. And I'm going to make sure that these two edges meet. And then I'm going to go over here to the front, and I'm going to nest my seams again. You could do your seams open if that works for you better. I happen to like mine nested, must be the quilter. You may notice that I've got my wedding ring down in my pin bin today. Have it. I just try to keep it. When my hands aren't having the ring, I try to keep it really close. Don't want to lose that. It's kind of important. And then lastly, I'm going to do this back side. And I'm making sure that my lid inside there, I can feel that it's laying down straight. And I'm putting an extra pin there just to make sure that it stays well. All right, this time I am going to bring you over to the sewing machine so that you can watch me sew. I didn't think you really needed me to show you how to do a basting seam, but you may want to be able to see this one. So let's move to, so here we are at the sewing machine, and I'm going to show you how I sew this. But before I start, I want to make sure that you understand. I have the lid for my box at the back, and over here, I'm going to start sewing on this side, and I'm going to sew from here all the way around to here and backspace or back stitch. Okay, so we're going to sew. I'm starting at the front here. I'm going to backspace when I start and backspace when I end. And my spot where I'm going to close, that doesn't sound so hot. What are we doing here? Now I'm on the back, so I'm making sure that everything feels like it's laid down flat and we're not missing anything. Making sure I don't put any wrinkles down in my edge of my bag. Okay, so we have gone through and sewn the entire bag. Let's go over here and turn this out. So I've got an opening here at the front. It's not a big opening, but it's big enough that I can turn things out through it. And I'm just going to reach in and grab the outside fabric and start pulling it through. Trying to quit rotating the bag. I have a bad habit of that whenever I'm on camera. Sorry. There's my top or my lid. You could put batting inside of this if you wanted a thicker bag, or you could use vinyl, but vinyl wrinkles easier, so be a little harder to turn it out. And I'm going to go ahead and use my fingers to make sure that all of my corners have come out. And I did double check before I started sewing this together that all of my corner seams were sewn all the way down and intact. Okay, and my lid's out. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the lining down inside the bag. And I'm going to push my corners down into place. Now, see how that edge right there is not quite even. I'm going to use my fingers to pull that up and even. And because it's not completely sewn closed yet, I can go ahead and do that right there. Make my front edge where I left my opening match. And I am going to put a pin there. And right beside it. Just to make sure those stay where I want them to. Then I'm going to go around and I'm just rolling it up so that I don't have a little hump right there. And so that everything is even and straight. Now at the back, I'm using my fingers to pull it all out straight and flat. You could go ahead and put some pins in there. I will probably just finger press it all down. And everything I'm doing is tricks that you use whenever you make purses. So it's very similar to making a purse. Laying it down, pushing it so everything is flat. Hard to show that when I'm doing it flat on the table, but I'm just making sure it's all flat. All right. Last step. Once we have this all rolled up where we want, is I'm going to start right here, just before where my opening is, and I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch all the way around the inside of my lining. And I'm not back stitching. I should just give in and call it backspace, right? Using my fingers to make it all lay down flat and the way I want it. And I'm just using my fingers to make sure everything is taut right here. I don't have a bubble. And I didn't backspace, but I did stitch over a couple of stitches right there. So we now have our bag. I'll go through and trim up threads. But let's go back over to the cutting table so you can see this in more detail. Here's our bag with its lid. And I promise you, if it doesn't fit, you'll never see this video. And I have two of these that I keep close by my desk. And I'm always going, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? So it's actually a little taller than I need. I might could put a third one in there, but I don't have a third one. And then there's the top. And what I might do is I could put Velcro here. I could put a button in if I wanted to. Okay, see a cute little button right there along the edge of that. That light is not helping with the color at all. Okay. So here's our box or our bag. It's holding both of my boxes. I can put Velcro on there or a button. And I did make my top a little less wide than the rest of it. So it's not quite as wide, but it holds what I want and it's the right size, which is awesome. So we now have a way to make a bag ourselves for whatever size object we want to keep inside of it. Thank you for watching and you have a great day.